what does indie means. Because to my knowledge, I don't remember indie game requires government grants. No, generally, here, let me show you.
Government-funded propaganda has become very normal in the video game industry over the past few years, and now we're finding out that that is exactly what 1348X Voto is, and the internet's going wild over it. Now, it is always so funny to see something like this happen because it proves that gamers were right yet again. Every single time a Dustborn or a Flintlock the Siege of Dawn or a Cat Park or a 1348X Voto pops up, we question where the money came from.
That's
and
right.
sometimes
Although, can government be considered as investor? Minister of Culture from Italy. It's like, can that be considered as, I don't know, investors?
Microsoft DEI programs where they give developers the money to finish their game, but then it has to go on to Game Pass, and then they talk about how stunning and brave and diverse it was. Or we hear about government funding, and that is what is happening with Xvoto. So Smash JT had posted this saying, I've discovered where the funding for 1348 Xvoto actually came from, and it's way worse than we thought. I genuinely don't know what they put the money towards except for Jennifer English, because my God, this game looks like it was made with $50 in a paperclip. It makes no sense. After digging into Italian public financial records, I found out that the developer Sedlio SRL received 650,131 euros in government tax credits, plus another 6,000 euros in grants from the Italian Ministry of Culture.
So it's 656,000. How much is that in USD? 750,155, or in this case, 752,155.
Between 2021 and 2024. That's $745,563.07 in USD for those counting. Yes, this game was heavily funded with taxpayer money to once again push propaganda for the state. And I can't really say I'm all that surprised it pushes an LGBTQ plus agenda. The actresses boasted about that in their interviews, and ultimately, yes, we are talking about a game that is feminist at its core.
And also a game that might get censored in the Muslim world, Saudi Arabia, which of course this kind of thing is not going to, it's not going to be published in Saudi Arabia because it will be region locked because of the government. Before you say you need to play the game in order to talk about it, you have to understand one thing. When you put a game, okay, before I say that, anybody knows what the Radeon 7900 GRE for? I look at the specs for 1348X Voto. One of the specs for the recommended, you want to know what they say? Radeon RX 7900 GRE. Does anybody knows what kind of GPU is that? I would probably pick it up, but sadly, my laptop cannot run it.
Because it is about women being wronged by men to the point where they grow fond attachments with each other because they have nobody else in the world, because the world that is inhibited by men has pushed them down constantly, which is feminist slop. So I can't say I'm surprised that they received funding for this, especially when we look at all of the other games that have over the years. Most recently, Relooted didn't get government funding, but it was part of Microsoft's program where if you are a group of minorities or you are making a game about a group of minorities, so I did a whole video on this topic, it will be linked down below, but the TLDR is that Microsoft and Xbox funded the game through its DEI program, ID at Xbox Developer Acceleration Program. In an article published on Xbox Wire back in March 2023, the head of Developer Acceleration Program, James Lewis, revealed how the program discriminated based off of race, sex, and sexuality. The types of developers that they sought to support included, but was not limited to, developers who are led by those from Black, Indigenous, Latino, or LGBTQIA+ communities, women, developers with disabilities, developers from emerging markets, or teen teams with unique perspectives. This also includes independent developers working on a game that responsibility centers the experience around diverse characters or that prioritizes accessibility. And in some other cases, we have found out that Dustborn and even Cat Park were government funded.
Before we let Veridot continue, let me be clear one thing, folks. To my knowledge, okay, I don't remember indie games need government money. Most indie games, let's take Hollow Knight Silksong. Does Hollow Knight Silksong developer Team Cherry need government money? Is the minister, or in this case the government, considered as, I don't know, investors? Listen here, it doesn't matter what kind of game it is, okay? For me at least, my main concern is of course performance. I'm gonna keep bringing this up. Remember, 1348X Vodo has a GPU that I'm not even sure if it's a real one. Like for example, the recommended, if you're NVIDIA, you need a 5070. If you're AMD, Radeon RX 7900 GRE. Anybody knows what it is?
And even Cat Park were government funded. So it says, you know, Dustborn, that lame, woke video game that teaches gamers how to be activists and weaponizes cancel culture and bullying, it was government funded with the European Union and the Norwegian Film Institute, which, according to its website, falls under the authority of the Ministry of Culture, awarding the game and its developer Red Thread Games the funding based on ESG and DEI criteria, like the number of women who worked on the game. They're sure that the game being a radical left-wing propaganda tool surely helped, and this is probably why Dustborn's abject failure doesn't seem to be phasing the people behind it. They got a lot of their money from government grants with the intention of spreading their ideology as opposed to making a profit. So they were not people that had skin in the game, really. Sure, they showed up for work and they wanted it to succeed so that their studio could make more games in the future, but ultimately they were getting a paycheck. They weren't investing any of their own money into this experience, and they didn't really care about the consequences that might have followed its failure. Going back to the post made by Smash JT, it says this project wasn't just a private studio making a risky or stupid creative bet. It was subsidized by the state using a massive cultural grant program designed to promote media that supposedly represents Italian heritage and culture, and the receipts exist. The funding appears in their registry, the National Transparency Database, where every government subsidy to companies have to be legally recorded. In total, the public support tied to this project is 656,000 euros, around 750k USD.
And also the budget, folks. 656,000. Since when does indie games require that many budget? No, generally, I recall most indie games, okay? Most indie games, they don't require this many budget. Can 1348X Vodo be considered as indie or AA?
Number is important because the program only covers about 25% of eligible development costs, meaning the total production budget for the game was likely several million euros, which is insane to me. I don't understand what this money went to except for in their pockets. It was a very short game. It ran poorly. It didn't have anything that stood out.
And also, I overheard some people say there's no control mapping. You cannot change anything for some reason.
And we know that voice actors generally do not get paid a lot of money. They are, unfortunately, generally paid pretty poorly. Some of them deserve way more, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's some need more.
If Jennifer English didn't really get paid a lot, where did this money end up going? I think another big part of this that you can see based on LinkedIn dates is that this studio has been around for 7 years at this point. There are people within the studio that have been there for 7 years, and yet they haven't put out any games except for this. So did the several million euros go into 7 years worth of development for this title? Or did they work on another game that they scrapped or that ultimately morphed into this? Because they've only ever had 15 people that have worked on this game, except for, you know, consultants that they've hired and brought in externally. But the core studio is only 15 people.
Listen, to all game companies, I don't think you need consultant, okay? Look, if you have a better writer, a talented one, you can do it. You don't need consultancy firm like Sweet Baby Inc. or Black Girl Gamer. Honestly, I wanted to try this game, okay? 1348X Photo for my birthday, but I saw the system requirement. I realized my laptop, with the possibility, it will not run, okay? No way. It will crash. 100% my gaming laptop will crash to desktop.
Externally, but the core studio is only 15 people. This is insane to me and to a lot of other people who are now saying, what the hell? Your tax dollars hard at work, not sure if I should laugh or be angry. No wonder they don't care if it sells, they already secured the bag. You can bet your ass there was also EU money pumped into this. Medieval Lesbian Nun game gets 656k euro Italian taxpayer cash because the Ministry of Culture said, yep, this is our heritage now. The same subsidy system Europe and Canada have used for years to bankroll flops that ignore players. When governments pay up front, sales don't matter, only pleasing the grant committee does. That's not culture. That's why these games keep existing while hating their actual audience. And it's pretty wild to me that taxpayer dollars are going towards entertainment at all. I don't think that that should be the case. I do think that money should be going to better things. I love entertainment. I love video games, but in every single scenario, it's just propaganda, and it's not actually trying to make content that educates kids in a good way or educates people on a topic in a positive way. It just ends up being one-sided, low-quality propaganda, and then nobody shows up to support it because nobody wants to be forced to consume this type of content.
Shout out to Veradark. Do you guys ever wonder where your taxpayer money goes through? I'd like to ask all of you, if any of you wonder, where did your taxpayer that you pay with your hard-earned money countless times, ever wonder where those taxpayers go to? For me at least, where I come from, I don't know where my taxpayer is going to, but I hope it goes something important. Not like this one, what you're seeing here. The I believe the Learning Care Center, they really need to fix their spelling, okay? These fraudsters, they can't even spell right. You remember Nick Shirley, how he exposed the fraud in Minnesota or somewhere? It shows people where the taxpayer is going. And how come nobody reported on that one? No mainstream media is reporting it. How come Nick Shirley is the only one? It is going to be relevant, okay? You wonder, where did your own taxpayer that you paid every single year or maybe every single month, did it go to a better care? Like, for example, helping the homeless, the veterans? For me at least, every game can exist. The beauty is competition. But the problem is, you guys have to understand one thing. 1348X Voto is an indie game. An indie game doesn't have that high of a budget like 650,000 euros. I'm 100% certain that Hollow Knight Silksong doesn't have that much money when they started it. So evidently, folks, there are many things, well, besides, of course, the character. Performance, listen, if you check the review, okay? Like, for example, this game, 1348X Voto, most of the reviews is gonna be from performance, okay? Listen, it doesn't matter if your game has a lesbian or attractive female characters or, better yet, ugly characters. Performance is the key, okay? Every developer cannot ignore performance. That is the main key thing that will determine a game's success. If your game cannot run at all, I would say this, your game will flop, okay? Because remember, not many people, and also not many of you who is watching this, have a high-end GPU or a high-end gaming PC or a high-end gaming laptop, okay? Think about that.
Oh, Ada. What to do with you?
The choppers is still within range, sir. Should we open fire?
No. Her little act of defiance changes nothing. Besides, We have all we need. We continue. As planned.